Our teachers found the issue of inequality and waste to be very ethically important, and soon we were presented with the topic in not just science but almost every subject. For that reason, Headmaster Lunches decided to call the entire school into the auditorium once again, and announced that from now on he would cut a banana from his own lunch. From this day on, I'll never eat a banana ever again. At least no banana from traditional exploitative brands, he proclaimed, with a seriousness as if he had been proposed as a new candidate for the position of the federal president. Well, I have to admit I would have been less surprised if someone wanted him in a weird job like that than I was now at the sudden announcement that our headmaster wanted to apparently abstain from bananas for the rest of his life. Quite the opposite, actually. I'm quite certain many students would have been glad had he been moved to the capital to better fulfill his presidential duties. Then at least we would have been rid of it, and maybe Mrs. Honeysweet, our German teacher, would have risen to become the new headmaster. So yes, our current headmaster's sudden refusal of bananas came as a shock to the entire student body, who knew what would happen as soon as the man stopped eating his favorite fruit. There was a good chance he turned into an even grouchy and stricter person than he already was. I somehow doubted that this kind of a development was even possible. We could hardly bear his reign as it was. Surely ask yourself, Mr. Lunches continued as humorously as usual, and with the same importance as if he had already been elected president, why the banana had to disappear from my lunch, and to make one thing clear, from your deserter's lunch as well. It actually followed through on his threat from the last big school assembly in February. To balance the cost of the necessary asbestos removal with the school's budget, he had drastically reduced the variety of desserts at lunch. Ice cream, pudding, and chocolates had been cut from the meal plan and been replaced by all sorts of fruit, mainly apples and bananas. He was a hard headmaster, our headmaster Lunches. Recently, I learned about the tough working conditions for banana harvesters in Latin America, and that the people living there have little room to grow food for themselves, as the plantations take up the majority of the land. Furthermore, just transporting the bananas into our supermarkets in itself is a huge waste of energy. Because of this, I have decided to put up a zero-tolerance policy for the consumption of bananas in the name of human and environmental protections. No bananas for everyone, and no to those that I see bringing a banana to the property of my school. Per banana they will receive an hour of detention and have to write a 600-word essay. That means 4 exercise book pages on the topic of energy savings. I knew I didn't have a banana with me, but couldn't help myself but check and dig out my yellow, banana-shaped lunchbox from the left pockets of my school bag. My mom had long since stopped actually putting bananas into that box. More specifically, ever since I'd actually left one inside the box for 2 weeks, in the middle of summer during summer break, and a plastic bag on top of that, forgotten after the last day of school before the holidays. We found the uneaten banana and at the same time found and smelled the result of an highly interesting biological experiment. Cleaning the piece of Tupperware had appealed to my gag reflex in particular and took a very long time. I and my mom, for once very much and completely in unison and agreement, decided not to under any circumstances repeat an experiment like that. And so my mom only ever filled a banana-shaped lunchbox with candies and snacks, especially chocolate drops and salted peanuts. A few other students weren't as lucky and started panicking, because different mothers had put bananas into their children's lunch boxes, likely for the alleged health benefits, and no one wanted to write an essay about environmental protection, least of all 4 pages and even lesser over at least 4 pages. And as my second point for today, Headmaster Lunch's voice rose up once more. He really sounded pompous enough to be holding a speech in front of the entire Bundestag, instead of 300-something school children aged 6 to 10. I would like to take the school assembly as an opportunity to advise every single one of you to not for any reason leave the schoolyard during recess, not to buy licorice or chocolates from the kiosk on the other side of the street, or anything else. For example, here he made a very threatening and long pause, bananas, because... An even longer pause followed, and our headmaster pulled a truly frightening, yet dead serious grimace. Just 2 days ago there was a girl, 8 years old, who left the schoolyard and bought a bag of banana jellies. She was kidnapped by a passing car. The auditorium broke into a moderate panic. Who was the girl? Why hadn't we heard anything about an alleged kidnapping until now? Was she even alive? Was she being held for ransom? Had someone called the police, the armed forces, or maybe even Interpol? My brain reviewed every single kidnapping case I'd ever heard of. Most came from The Famous Five audiobooks, and tried to picture what had transpired in the past and what might be looming in the future. Headmaster Lunches enjoyed our horror after the bomb he just dropped, and left us to our panicked speculations for at least another 5 minutes, without giving us any additional information. "This is just terrible," said Louise quietly. "It's going to be a girl from a parallel class. She's been missing for the past 2 days. We used to call her Sandbox Princess because she thought we was better than us not digging around in the sand, because she wanted to keep her clothes clean. And now there might have been a stranger who kidnapped her, and we're never going to see her again." What's the use?" Kay grumbled, contempt audible in his voice, while he observed Headmaster Lunches on his podium. "Don't worry about it, he's not done yet. It's not going to be half as bad as you think it is. Just you wait." And really, after the condensed school job, it has peaked in its worst suspicions, and there were whispered discussions about which teacher would give an eulogy for the Sandbox Princess, what to wear for the funeral, and whether or not we should start a cure to musically illustrate a passing, when Mr. Lunches raised his head in a conciliatory gesture and said, "Calm down and stop worrying. It wasn't an actual kidnapping. In this case, the stranger in the car turned out to fortunately be the girl's own father, who very much legally picked up his child that had illegally left the schoolyard. Legally, because he, the father, had called me beforehand, informing me that the grandmother had passed away, and he wanted to take her to visit and comfort the remaining grandfather. The poor child doesn't have to attend school for the week. It has, so to say, extra holidays to process her grief."